People can stop by and ask questions and hopefully get some information and do that. The format is Q&A, questions and answers. I am loaded with questions. I hope you guys have a lot of questions as well. And we are joined by the answer folks when it comes to detailing, and we'll ask them stuff. And I got questions for them. If you guys have questions for me, raise your hand. I'll come take your question, and we'll let you guys kind of help direct us for this. And for the detailing seminar, I'm joined by Ashley of 303 and the Answerman, as they call you, Bobby. Real quick for everybody thinks, tell us what you guys do. Tell us about 303 and where you're located here and all that kind of stuff.
We're located in Chicago. We're an 80-year-old family-owned company. We have a line of fuel additives, and then we also just took on the 303 line in July of 2012.
Right. And then, Bobby, for everybody out there, not only do you do 303, but you also have the title of the world's fastest man.
That's correct. Everybody calls me crazy, but yeah, I'm the engine Answerman from Gold Eagle, so I go around the country, educate the public on how to take care of the systems and how to not only treat the inside of the car, but with 303, you can take care of the outside of your vehicles or boats. So, but also back in 2010, I set the land speed record on a lawnmower at 96.529 at the Bonneville Salt Flats.
So nearly 100 miles an hour. You are a crazy man,
yeah, well,
Bobby.
I get that a lot, but you can go on YouTube and type in world's fastest lawnmower and see my run. So it's kind of interesting, but it looks like a lawnmower, and then it was. You know, I couldn't think about what I was doing because if I did, I wouldn't have done it.
Well,
anyway, we appreciate Fred Shedd having us here today, and hopefully we can answer some of your questions about taking care of your boats.
Well, I appreciate. I got several questions for you, and once again, the audience, if you guys have questions, we'll take your questions anytime. Let's start off, Ashley. If I were to go buy a brand new boat today, one of these gorgeous chaparral boats over here right beside us, it's nice and shiny. I can see myself in it and everything right now. If I want to keep it looking that way, what kind of things should I be doing?
Well, you'd want to make sure that you're taking care of it with proper maintenance inside the boat and outside the boat. With our 303 products, we have a product for every inch of your boat. You'd want to make sure that you're using the correct materials on it so that it's not harming your leather seats or the outside of your boat. We have our aerospace protectant, which is our most known product, and this actually does not have any harmful silicones. So you can use that on your leather, vinyl, and plastic surfaces, and it doesn't give it that greasiness.
Right. And I got plenty more questions for you, but I actually have some questions for you guys in the audience. I'm curious of what kind of boats we have out here and how old they are. What you got?
I've got a 85 Grand Banks.
85 Grand Banks. And what year is yours, Royal?
Mine, 66, Berkeley 25.
A 66 Bertram, and yourself?
I got so many boats.
You got a lot of boats. I like it. You're my new best friend. All right, I'm gonna hang out with you. How about you guys?
Hunter 04.
A Hunter 04, a nice sailboat. How about yourself?
04 Celine.
04 Celine. All right, and we got these. How about what kind of boat you got?
Blue water, sport fishing boat.
Blue water. And how old is your boat?
6 years old.
6 years old. So relatively new sport fishing boat. You guys?
Bay Ranger,
How old?
2007.
2007. How about you?
Well, I'll claim the Pearson 323.
Okay, Pearson on there, nice. And how about you guys?
2006 Cedar.
2006?
2005 Canoe.
2005, and?
201 Pathfinder.
So we got actually some relatively newer boats in here. I didn't hear anybody say they had something from the 60s or 70s, so well, maybe just one there, huh? Well, two. But a lot of newer boats and stuff there. When it comes to, let's just say, general maintenance of washing and just getting it due whenever I bring it back in, anything that I should avoid or anything I should try, or what should I do just from general washing it after using it all day long?
Well, you'd want to make sure that on your cleaners, you're using a cleaner that's not really aggressive, because a lot of times the cleaners will take off the coatings on some of your critical components, like your seats. A lot of them will have a PVC coating, and that coating can deteriorate with using an aggressive cleaner.
Right. And you know, and I'll agree with Ashley on this. I think one of the worst things I see people at the marina use is they take like Dawn dish soap and they'll squirt it in the bucket and they'll mix some water in there and they just have that right there. If you read Dawn dish soap on the front, it says degreasing agent on it. That's what it's designed for. When we use that kind of stuff, it's taking all of our protectant layer off of our boat as we wash it. And speaking of protectant layer, give me some strategies or some thoughts of creating that protectant layer on my boat.
Well, we'd recommend that you would use our multi-surface cleaner first because it is not aggressive where it would take off the finishes, but it also rinses residue free. So then if you're going to be using it on a vinyl or plastic or even a rubber surface, we'd recommend the aerospace protectant because it doesn't have any harmful silicones or petroleum distillates. So it'll eventually bond onto the fabric when you wipe it dry. And with the cleaner, rinsing residue free, it will fully bond, and it'll give you that reduced static on the seats so that it'll clean up easier.
Now, help me out a little bit, the difference between the cleaner and the protectant. Of course, I'm going to clean it first, like this is my seat. Am I just spraying it on with a sponge, a rag, a brush, or what if I have a big area? How am I dealing with that?
You would spray it on, and you could use a soft bristle brush for some of the harder areas. Spray it on, you can use some water to kind of rinse it. But if you have a more concentrated stain, you can just spray it right on the stain and kind of agitate the surface so that the stain comes to the top. And then you would wipe it right off.
And then once I get it clean, I want to protect it?
Yes, so you would take the protectant, you would spray it on, and then wipe and dry. It doesn't require much arm work to get it really in, just a light buffing.
And this is on vinyl seats. What if I have like canvas or umbrella or any kind of the other fabrics that I may have on a variety of boats? What am I going to do with those?
Well, the nice thing is you can use the multi-surface cleaner for not only the vinyls, but you can use it for every inch of your boat. So you'd use that, you would clean off your canvas so that you're removing any mold or mildew, and then you would let it dry, and then you would take the fabric guard and you would apply it in a cross hatching so that it gets in all the little crevices. Yeah, spray across and then spray up and down, and then you can let it sit out in the sun for about 24 hours so it can fully cure. And then your water repellency will last, depending on where you're at, for a couple months. You can treat in just one little area if you wanted to, or you can treat your entire surface.
All right. Any questions? Or yeah, we got a question. Then I got one there. Let's take some.
But that doesn't waterproof the canvas, correct?
Waterproofing would cause your fabric not to breathe. So that's why we have a water repellency, so it'll repel the water and it'll repel all the mold and mildew.
And if I have, let's say I have my handmade top on my pontoon, once a year I'm going to pull it off, I'm going to clean it, I'm going to put the repellent, the water repellent on there. When I put it back up there, how long should I expect it to last before I have to put more repellent on there so it stays, keeps me dry under there?
Normally it's a couple months, depending on how much wear and tear. The fabric guard, and with any fabric, the protective coating wears off after you've moved it around, you kind of scratch the surface a little bit. So a lot of times in your high tension areas, you can just treat those, maybe once a month if you notice it's starting to leak in. But most of the time we've had customers that come back and say, well, I've used it, once a year in the Midwest, and I haven't had to reuse it until the next season.
All right, had another question here?
Well, we're going to clean the whole deck first. Rinse the boat down and clean the deck. What non-aggressive product? We can't spray that all over the whole deck.
Yeah. Do you guys have a boat wash product or something outside of spray so I can clean the entire boat, the hull, and everything else?
Well, we have it in gallon sizes, so you can kind of wash it on if you had wanted to. But we normally have it in the spray bottle.
Do you dilute it and mix it into like a 5-gallon bucket of water so I can then just wash the whole boat?
It's not concentrated,
Okay.
so you would have to use the full surface. The only thing is you don't want to use the protectant on any surfaces that you're going to be walking on because it does make it very slick.
Other question, good question. Yes, take one here.
Do you have products that remove mold and mildew?
Oh, good question. How about if I have a big mold and mildew problem? It's on the edge of my seats, and sometimes it gets like right on the edge where the stitching and stuff is. What's your best solution to get rid of that stuff?
You would use the multi-surface cleaner, but because it's not as aggressive as like a bleach, we don't have any pesticides in it, it's not going to fully kill it. The best way to do it is look in your owner's manual to find out what they recommend to clean off a mold or a mildew. And then when you use the protectant over on your vinyl seats, it's going to impede the mold and mildew. So you don't have to worry about the mold and mildew growing back.
And I want to add something right there to pretty much what Ashley's saying. I think I have a sample in here. I will. Here's a piece from an old seat there that we had, whatever. Now, once you get mold and mildew on it, it goes all the way through to the back, all right? No matter really what cleaning you do on this, you never really get rid of the mold there. It always comes back. Here's where it's so important. When you have your seats that are new, or if you replace, you know, things and you reupholster things along the way, if you add that protectant on it all the times, it never goes all the way through. That's the key is, right? Kind of like whenever I go out on my boat in the sun, I put on sunscreen. As long as I have a layer on sunscreen, I get dirt and all that other kind of stuff that gets on there, but then you know, you take a shower within the night and you wash it right off, and before you go out in the sun again, you put that extra protectant and sunscreen on again, or your long sleeve shirt or whatever you wear when you go out there, and you never let your skin get damaged. If I go out there without the sunscreen on, of course I get sunburned, then I get blisters, and then you have a much bigger issue that just doesn't wash off when you take a shower there. So I think actually, you know, the very important part is when you get it in good shape, have a protectant on it all the time. So now my question for you along that line is actually, if I have my vinyl seats or whatever and I put a protectant on it, how long would I expect that protectant to last, and how would I take care of it with the protectant on there?
The protectant is a water-based formula. So if you're going to be out in the sun, like in Arizona, California, Florida sun, you want to apply it once a month. If you're more like in the Midwest area where you're not seeing as much sun, or you keep it in storage, you would apply every month and a half.
And then I would assume that if I get a stain or something bad on it, and I have to really scrub this area right here to get this stain out with the cleaner or any kind of aggressive thing, then I have to replace the protectant there?
Yes, a lot of consumers will tell us that every time they go to detail their boat or clean it, they'll reapply. That way they're 100% covered. They're protecting the things they love. They're making sure that it stays looking newer longer.
The other thing is that when you've got the protectant on your seats or whatever you apply it to, it's always a lot easier to clean off because the protectant on it. So you don't really have to scrub it most of the time that much to get it off, because that's the way it works, where it seals and it protects. It also has a UV protectant in it that prevents it from faking. So it does several things for you. And another good thing, just so you know about the aerospace protectant, it's great for rubber. It actually absorbs into the rubber and prevents it from dry rotting. So it's going to extend the life of rubber. And that's why when I put it on the tires of your trailer or any of your rubber trim, you put it on there, I really just don't wipe it right off. I want it to absorb into it, and that's going to extend the life of that rubber for a while. So keep that in mind with that. And it doesn't attract dust like other products. So it makes it look new. So any plastic on your boats, it makes it look brand new. And with that UV protectant, you don't have to worry about it fading.
Perfect. Two, you said something, Bobby, and I've seen this in real life, and I'll give you an example. If you take a Bahimini top on a boat or whatever, and of course you get bird poo or something on it, sooner or later they hit it. If there's a protectant on it, any of your protectants that you've been regularly keeping that on there, that'll wash off pretty easily. If there's no protectant on it, then you end up with a stain that's next to impossible to get off. So you can always look at the other people top of their Bahimini tops and know if they're regularly spraying a protectant of some kind on it, because it does clean off. And I'll give you another example, and this is a common thing, and I saw this on more than one occasion. I'm sure Larry can tell us a couple this way. You get on a nice new boat, there's a seat laying right back here, a nice white seat on a brand new boat. Young lady comes up, she does this number, she sits down just like this, and she has nice new toenail polish right on her toes, and then so when she gets up, there's 5 little red marks right there from toenail polish on the nice new seat. If that seat had a protectant on it, you can get that off pretty easily. You can get it off. If there was no protectant on it, that toenail polish can be forever a little pink stain across where those toes laid across there. So that's why it's very important to have some form of protectant on your seats. Anyway, any other questions? Yeah.
Same thing on your eyes?
Isinglass. Now, isinglass is a tough one, and for anybody who doesn't know, isinglass is the clear vinyl that you can see through on that. How are we going to deal with getting our isinglass protected and looking good?
The isinglass, you can use the multi-surface cleaner on to clean it up. It's not going to remove the protective coating again. and then you can use the protectant on it, but you really have to really blend it in so that you're not getting any fogginess. It'll take away the fogginess and it'll keep it looking new, but you really have to put some arm work into making sure that it's fully in the isinglass. We don't recommend it though for Strata-Glass. Strata-Glass you can use a cleaner on, but you cannot use the protectant because they use the urethane coating.
Yep. The other thing that I'll mention whenever you have an isinglass or any of those kind of things, that is a place I wouldn't use my brush, that I would have some chamois rags or some of that microfiber to clean off. Also, to one of the places where you see an isinglass you get problems is where you get little bitty scratches in it. So if you're out in salt water, or even if you don't get the salt spray, but just from the air out there, it's very wise whenever you get back just to spray off with fresh water the isinglass before you even start the cleaning process or whatever there. Then you have a microfiber wag, clean it off a little bit first, and then you get the protectant layer on it. And I believe like the seats and the top and all that, you got a protectant layer on it, things clean off much easier.
And also with the scratches, if you say you have isinglass that's been scratched, it'll actually help go over all the scratches and make them transparent. So they're not going to be as visible. A lot of times they get that cloudiness once they've scratched. This will allow it to remain, you can see right through it.
And a little secret, I'll tell you, a secret of the trade that I have used and I learned from professional detailers that go around. If you have isinglass or canvas or any of that other kind of stuff, and you have you have the zippers for things, the zippers end up corroding and you get corrosion in the zippers themselves. One of the little simple things that works there is chapstick. Get your thing of chapstick, it fits right in there. Run the chapstick up and down the zipper, and then you get all the lubrications from that on the zipper itself. That'll make your zippers run a little bit easier there. Good question. Other questions? Yeah, you got one here.
I wanted to ask about oxidation on the hull. On the outside, I've got one of my sides of the new is facing in the sun, and it's just faded. What can I do to bring that back?
Actually, either one of you guys talk about oxidation a little bit?
The protectant, if it's not too far gone, I've seen a lot of times where it's starting to fade, and you put this on it, it takes a good break. It gets so faded, it's too far gone. But it's well worth a try to use the protectant, and most of the time when you bring it, those are back.
We actually have a lot of consumers call in and say that they've been using on the decals on the side of their boat because it'll keep them from fading. That's one of the, like we have a jet ski at home and we bought it used, it was very faded. And I mean, it doesn't bring the color completely back, but it looks pretty good. We also have the speed detailer that we relabeled our product so that we have a full marine line. And the speed detailer you can use on any of your shiny surfaces or fiberglass surfaces. And it still has a UV protectant in it, but it doesn't have as much arm work applying.
Yeah, and I want to take just a second and add right here so show you guys something from an extreme case to a thing. I'll give you the quick 30-second story of this boat. This boat belonged to Mercury Marine. It was one of their test boats where they tested engines in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, where they build their engines. And so it sit out for 18 years. Of course, they never did anything to it. The boat never was registered. It had, you know, all the paperwork was still sitting. And all they did every day, put a new engine on it, run around the lake. Put a new engine on it, run around the lake to test all their engines. Well, they donated to this program 2 years ago. And so it had been sitting outside for 18 years and was completely oxidized. So when you see the back here, when you look closely when the seminar is over, you can actually almost feel the oxidation and how the different coloration happened. I brought this all the way back. Then when I got it back to here, it's easy to use a protectant on it here to keep it looking this good. But if you have one that's really bad, here was the process that I did on this one here. We simply get from here all the way forward, and I took sandpaper. I wet sanded it with 3,000 grit sandpaper. You can only get from like a real true body shop. Had a 5-gallon bucket sitting right here with water. I'd dip the little thing in the water, I'd sand. I'd dip it in the water, I'd sand. I'd dip it in the water, I'd sand. So I sanded all the way forward and got rid of the outside area of my gel coat, because that gel coat's about 7 mils of material, so I'm getting rid of that outside layer of that. Then I took from here forward, and I compounded it with a 600 grit compound on there. I compounded all the way there. When I got through compounding it, I washed, and then I waxed from here forward. And then if you look here, how shiny and new it looks compared to old, that was the process. Then when you get into this process, then you add a good protectant on, you keep that protectant on it, and it doesn't let go back to that kind of thing. Because remember, you only got a certain amount of mils of material, so you can only do this 3 or 4 or 5 times over the life of the boat. So you can't make this can't be a yearly thing or every 2 years, or you'll be totally out of gel coat in just a few years. But if you have to do this once or twice, you get into that thing, just like I mentioned on sunscreen, then you got that layer protected on it all the time. It protects it, and you just wash it off and reapply and protect it, wash it off and reapply and protect it. And that's the real key. And if you talk to people that have older boats that look brand new, how'd you do that? How does that boat 20 years old and it still looks that shiny and new? They always have a protectant on it, because that's what we're fighting. We're fighting the sun and the water constantly on that. Anything you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, I actually had somebody come by the booth yesterday, and they said that they bought a boat, they were planning on selling it. And when they got it home and they cleaned it up really nice with the 303, the wife looks at him and goes, "We're not selling it. We have to keep this." So,
Yeah.
it really is good.
Yeah, it takes a lot of elbow grease, but you can bring it back. Any other questions? Yeah.
Stainless steel, man.
All right, stainless steel. You're talking about pitting and stuff in stainless steel, or just the dirt and ground?
All your stainless steel on your boat.
All your stainless steel. Let's say it's in good shape. We want to keep it in good shape. What can we use for stainless steel?
You can use a speed detailer. Again, that's for all of your shiny surfaces. It'll help clean it up, and it's also going to help with the oxidation. We have a lot of companies that come back and say that the metal starts oxidating over time. Use the speed detailer on it, and it'll help protect that.
Good. Any other questions? Yeah. There you go. The salt on aluminum, the same way, kind of the same metal kind of question, where we get salt in there, how we deal with salt issues.
Well, this will do somewhat, but normally when it gets that bad, you're gonna have to sand it or get an acid. As acids boil over them, it'll clean them up. But when it starts pitting, it's hard to get that without doing elbow grease.
Real elbow grease. Perfect. Any other questions? Yeah, we got another hand in round.
Yes, do you have any product catalog that we can take with? Different products? You know, any kind of literature that we can take with us?
Yeah, over at our booth, we've got some brochures. We actually have some samples that you can do a quick test run on. We're on G60. For G60, we're just a couple aisles over that way.
Yep. All right. Any more questions here?
So what about all those waxes, polishes, and everything else that all of us own? Are you saying we can eliminate all of that? All that buffing, waxing, and everything we've done?
You can, yeah. A lot of times a silicone-based product, if you're using it on your vinyls, that it's got that greasy feel, and it eventually starts baking into your vinyl. So the aerospace protectant for basically all of your hard surfaces can take care of all that.
And then, lastly, for Ashley, you guys, if people want more information, they want to get the brochures and the other stuff, you guys are located here on the G aisle. We're in C, right? Just go right down to the G aisle if you notice anything in that direction. What number is it?
G60.
G60. All right. Then, what if people want to find out more after the show? The show's over. Where can we find your products, or where can we get more information, a website, or anything like that?
We're just 303, the number 303products.com. And on there too, you can type in your zip code and find out where you can purchase the product nearest you.
Perfect.
And make sure you go by the booth, because we've got the samples of the aerospace. It's sponge, it's soaked in it, so it's great to take with you and try out on your whatever you want to put it on your vinyl, for your dash, your car, anything. And that way you can see how good it works. Make sure you come out and get a sample. We also have some pins here, 303 pins, if you want to come by and get them. And also we have a $10 metal rebate. So if you go buy the product, you can make your CD, and we'll reimburse you up to $10.
Now, Ashley, will you and Bobby, will you guys hang out for a few minutes? Anybody has any other questions?
Sure.
Yep, if you guys will be here. I encourage you guys, ask some questions, you have anything, especially ask Bobby some racing questions, and we're going 100 miles an hour on the salt flats, on a lawnmower on top of all that. Also, let me remind everybody coming up at 1 o'clock here shortly, how to change a water pump. We're actually going to pull this little motor out. We're going to change the whole water pump in it. If you want to learn how to change that water pump, join us at 1 o'clock for that. If you want more information about 303, Ashley and Bobby will hang out right here for you right after the seminar. And last, if you want to register right over there, we're giving away an assortment of things. We're giving away 3 $500 gift cards to the prop. We're giving away some boxes here with all kind of cleaning supplies in them. And it just helps us learn what kind of things people do. And then myself, I'll be here the rest of the time too, so if you have any other questions, I'll help you too. Other than that, thank you guys. Enjoy the Progressive Insurance Miami International Boat Show, and we'll be right here if you got more questions.